Howdy guys, welcome back to the Form First podcast. You're joined by your hosts Sam and Ben, and today we have a very special guest, one of the trainers here at Form First, Caitlyn from Caitlyn Edmunds Fitness. Caitlyn, welcome onto the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Did you want to give us a quick rundown of how and why you got into the fitness industry?
Absolutely. So I originally got into the fitness industry because unfortunately in my early 20s, I did have quite a bad experience with the bodybuilding prep.
Mm-hmm.
So after some chats with this good old dude over here, I did decide that it might be time for me to step into the industry and help women not make the same mistakes that I unfortunately did fall prey to, and help other women build their confidence, heal their relationship to food, their bodies, and overall just not be afraid to build muscle and like some decent size because it's not the enemy.
Yeah, right. How long have you been in the business now?
Coming on to about 3.5 years now.
Yeah. And just continuing to grow. You've got a couple of strings to your bow now.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Subcontractor.
Yep. Lovely.
Going
Good
well.
old Caitlyn. Yep.
Yeah.
My little head coach over there.
Yeah.
Caitlyn, you started out in a big box gym being Good Life.
Yep.
And then you transitioned to another big box gym, I would say slightly smaller, Zap. And now you're at our studio, Form First.
Yes.
What was the transition like going from that bigger box gym
Oh.
down to a smaller studio?
Yes. So my transition from a box gym into a studio was terrifying. I'm going to be fully transparent. It was terrifying because when you leave a box gym, you do give up the safety, kind of like the safety net that is being handed leads, being handed like training and development kind of to you. And when you come into a studio that is private, like Form First, you do need to have the systems in place to be able to generate your own leads, as you know. So that was scary, giving up guaranteed leads, albeit only a few, and having to completely transform my business to be able to sustain myself outside of a box gym.
Yeah.
So it was scary, but incredibly rewarding.
Do you find now that you've transitioned to Form First, you can maybe attract more of your ideal client through your own marketing versus being in a box gym and just taking on whoever Good Life and Zap gave
Client
you?
A to Z.
Yeah.
Yep, pretty much, yes.
Yep.
So when I moved from Good Life, I was working with just everyone in Gen Pop, and now I specifically work with women. I do have a few male clients who we do work on those same issues, but I typically do tailor my marketing towards my ideal client, which are women who want to improve their relationship to their body, training, and food.
Yeah.
Nice
Love
one.
that. That's fantastic. And if there was, someone that's just finished their certifications and they were looking to go into a big box gym versus a studio, would you sort of recommend one or the other to a newbie?
For a newbie, I would highly recommend a box gym.
Yep.
Just because there is a lot that you get out of being surrounded by a team of potentially more experienced PTs who have been in it for years, so they're veterans, and also having those guaranteed leads allows you to build your sales skills, your contact skills, all of the things that you need to actually build the systems. So yes, for a newbie, I would recommend starting out in a box gym.
Yeah, it's good to have exposure to different clients as well.
100%.
For
And
sure.
you learn a lot. You learn a lot about the
Yeah.
different body types, different ways of training, different styles in terms of coaching different people.
Need to
So
be
it
able to
teaches you-
adapt.
and then being able to pick who you actually want to work with from there.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. We've spoken about this before, Ben, when we've been looking for new trainers and we see people straight out of, college where they've finished their certifications, and you look at the newbies and, Form First isn't the space for newbie trainers. Like all of the trainers that we have here at the moment would have at least a couple of years of experience under their belt, or they are under it's the subcontractor based model. And that's basically what we look for in a trainer.
And bring in that established client base, then they're sort of all over their social media stuff as well to help their own leads. Like yourself, you've put a serious amount of effort into your social media this year and last year, and it's obviously seems to be paying off really well now.
Yeah, no, my socials only really started to grow this year. I was pretty much heavily relying on my website last year and Google Ads, but social media has definitely improved the game.
Yeah, big time.
100%.
Yeah, awesome. With your experience with bodybuilding in the past, obviously you had a very negative experience, and that's when we actually started coaching together after, towards the end of your prep and through your reversing process. And that was a very difficult time from a coach's perspective on my end to get you out of that rut that you were in. But obviously you've done multiple cuts and builds with me and with other coaches as well throughout the process. I want to chat to you about reverse dieting, because that is an extremely important part of coming out of a cutting phase, not just only in a bodybuilding prep, but just in general. Could you speak a little bit about the importance of a reverse diet, maybe what it is for the listeners that don't know what it is?
Yeah, of course. So a reverse diet is basically an incremental increase of calories over a specified amount of time. Now, for every person, it's going to be a bit different. So it's not going to be like a set number of weeks and that's just how long it's going to take. It generally depends on how their body responds to the reverse, how things are looking in terms of body composition, scale, weight, those kinds of things. But it is, in nature, a slow incremental increase of calories across several weeks, potentially into months, depending on the circumstances. Yes. It is an incredibly important process, because if it is not done correctly, that is typically where we see either rebound weight, rapid regain of weight. So people will often diet down pretty quick, drop all the weight off at pretty like a very rapid pace, and then immediately it regains just almost as quick. A reverse diet essentially helps stop that in its tracks. So we're not just repeating the same cycle over and over again of losing the weight, regaining it, losing the weight, regaining it.
Give the body a chance to adapt,
Yes.
metabolism to come back into line.
Yep. So just like the metabolism can adapt downwards, it can also adapt upwards. And I think of the metabolism as a bit of a range. A lot of people keep maintenance as a singular number, but it's actually a range that we can manipulate upwards and downwards.
Yeah, I feel like you never really truly know, from what I've learned in my very limited experience compared to the two of you, but what I've learned about reversing out and maintenance calories is it's just super volatile depending on your weight, and you just never know. Like, you can put all the numbers in your BMR calculator and all that type of stuff, but you never really have a true maintenance, and you can only do it by trial and error, guinea pig stages.
Yep.
Like we've just done that for me. I was on a pretty significant cut for the end of the 2 weeks of my little shred, and now we've just jumped we didn't do as much of a reverse, but I guess I'm still in a bit of a deficit just to play it safe, but we'll just see over the next 2 or 3 weeks. You've done that with a client that we both know well recently as well.
Yeah.
So just letting the body figure it out and see how we go from there.
Yeah.
100%. It does take a lot of fine tuning to get a reverse done correctly, and a lot of people, and that's where things like tracking plays a massive part.
Yeah.
Because if you are guesstimating, you can very quickly take yourself out of maintenance and pop yourself in a surplus or even back into a deficit.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously you can't, it's not like rinse and repeat for every client, is it?
No,
not
at all.
Yeah, you have to know your client. Sammy knows me very well, so he's like, "Yeah, we'll put you in a 5% deficit just before we go too far with that."
Yeah. Say, for an example, Caitlyn, you had a client that went through a cutting phase. You know, they worked with you for 12 weeks, and you helped them drop 8 kilos.
Yes.
You know, great result. End of the 12 weeks is up, and they go, "Awesome, I achieved my goal. Thanks, Caitlyn. I'm going to go off on my own now. See you later." And you're like, whoa. Like, let's go through the reversing process. And they're like, no, I'm just going to go figure it out myself. What are the detriments to doing that and going out and, quote unquote, trying to figure it out on their own?
Yes. So the detriment to going out and trying to figure it out on their own is there's a few. So one, often that is a repetitive cycle that they repeat over and over again. So they lose the weight and then they'll go figure it out. But most of the people that come to me for coaching, and we were chatting about this morning, most of the people that come to coaching are coming for a reason. And it's because their process and the techniques and the things that they tried last time didn't work.
Yep.
So with that, generally the advice that I would give is if it didn't work last time, don't keep trying the same thing over and over again. Let your coach help you through a reverse.
Sounds simple.
Yeah. In
words.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
words. It's a bit of it's a bit nuanced, really.
Yeah.
But the other detrimental side of things is if you don't do it correctly, the metabolism can adapt upwards, obviously, but then on top of it, a lot of people then yo-yo, where they'll see the scale go up, they'll go up, and then they'll immediately plummet the calories back down. And then that can create a lot of other fun little metabolic issues that I unfortunately personally have experienced. So we typically see hormones being affected with that. We see things like hair loss, skin can get bad, sleep can be affected.
Yeah.
So overall, there's a lot of things that going up in calories, trying to figure it out yourself, and then being scared of the weight gain and then dropping them all back down, you end up with a lot of other little
Bad game of dominoes.
Yeah.
It all
and
starts
it's a
falling
quick
over.
Game of dominoes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think with reverse dieting, well, with the cut in general, I don't think the cut is finished until you've actually gone through the reverse diet. So say you go through that 12-week cutting phase and then you reverse for 4 weeks, the cut's actually 16 weeks.
Yes, correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why so many people, when they do a bodybuilding prep, they get up on stage, they get off stage, they go back to the 12 Krispy Kreme donuts and the loaded cookies, and then they go get pizza and burgers, and then like their reverse is like they're still cutting technically.
Yeah.
Right. They're still cutting until they fully reverse out from that, and then you can go and enjoy yourself after that.
Yes.
You're doing so much damage when you go and gorge during your cutting phase, because your body is in a prime position to put on body fat. It's screaming to put on body fat when you're in a cutting phase.
Yes.
Yeah.
And on top of that, if you do go and gorge yourself after a pretty strong deficit, you can actually very quickly damage your relationship to food.
Yeah.
And you become almost the mentality between the cut and that switches up completely, where it no longer matters to the brain. It just is seeking quick dopamine, because obviously deficits are hard, fat loss is hard. Everyone who's been through a cut will know that it can really feel quite awful at times. But when you go from being in a deficit, technically in a way depriving the body of nutrients and energy that it desperately wants, because the body will fight you, and then you go give yourself all of the sweet treats and everything that you can get your hands on, it can very quickly switch up from, oh, okay, like I've just had like a little untracked meal, to, oh my God, give me everything I want to get my hands on. Like I will stuff my face. And that is the first step into a very twisted relationship to food. Yes.
Yeah, I experienced that after my first bodybuilding prep. I never ever had a sweet tooth growing up, and then I did my bodybuilding prep, and I was like, ice cream, chocolate, pizza, like all this sweet stuff. I was just like craving it, and I'm fine now. But like, my God, that takes so long to get out of that cycle. Yes. Because I did do the get off stage and eat the donuts and stuff. So
I wish I only had a sweet tooth. I've got a fuking everything tooth.
Oh,
dude.
same.
I'm like
Same.
sweet
Food
tooth, savory tooth.
yeah. Caitlyn, for some practical tips on reverse dieting, how would you approach reversing a client out after, say, an 8, 10, 12-week cutting phase?
It will depend quite a lot on the person, their lifestyle, the things that they generally are reaching for towards the end of their cut. But if I was to simplify it, I would assess where they are at the end of the cut. So if they're doing quite a few steps, they're doing cardio, they're training multiple times a week, and they're eating, say, an example is about 1,400 calories, I would assess that as like at their baseline circumstances towards the end of the cut. From there, we would slowly take things away and add in things. So I would slowly start by taking away some of the cardio. we just take maybe, if they're doing an hour of cardio, we take maybe 15, 20 minutes away.
Mm.
That slowly decreases the amount of stress and loading on the body, which then allows the metabolism to kind of chill out a little bit. But on top of that, then I would slowly start to increase food. So doesn't have to be by a lot. And for clients that towards the end, they're getting a bit twitchy about the idea of increasing food, because we know that in a deficit, the last thing we want to do is regain the weight. And a little bit of a common thing is that some people, when they increase the calories, they panic when they see the scale go up, because they automatically assume it's their progress being undone. So for a client who experiences a bit of anxiety surrounding weight gain and increasing food because they're scared of regaining, it would be 50 calories. If they're not so afraid of that, then it would be 100 to maybe 150, depending on how their body is responding. So if their body is responding, progress photos are still looking good at week in, week out, their scale weight's trending the way that we want it to, so relatively steady, then we can kind of push the limit a little bit and it wouldn't be so gentle. But over the period of time that we reverse, we could do it from pretty much anywhere from like 4 upwards. I know that a reverse that I've done personally took about 12 weeks for one of my clients, just because we had to slowly, incrementally build those calories back up to avoid anxiety. A reverse that I've done myself took about 8 weeks, slowly, incrementally building them back up. But I would suggest doing it slowly and not trying to rush it, because if you rush it, well, fat will come back, and we don't always want that. So if you want to keep your body composition where you ideally would like to keep it, slow and steady wins the race.
It's the same with most things as well, isn't it? Yeah. Same with a carb. You don't just go eating 2,700 calories right down to 1,900. You just can be like, what the, this sucks. And then the cravings be mad. Like, I've gone through this a bunch of times. I've bounced back twice pretty heavy. So, and even with, I'm sure with a bulk, like if you're bulking up a client, if they need that, you can't just be like, all right, 3,500 calories, let's give it a crack, see what happens.
Funnily enough, actually, I did experience that. 3,000 calories in my first ever bulk, a 19-year-old.
And it just, didn't play well. You just had too much freedom.
Oh, yeah, way too much. I was eating a bag of lolly snakes a day. It was great.
Yeah. Speaking of freedom.
Yes.
We don't want too much freedom in joints.
Ah, yes.
So we'd like to talk about hypermobility versus flexibility.
Yay, my favorite.
Yes, we know that you're going through your own battle with ehlers-danlos.
Yes.
Could you elaborate a bit more on that for those who don't know what ehlers-danlos is?
Yes, I can. So ehlers-danlos is a genetic condition that unfortunately is more common than a lot of people think, but it is a condition that is identified by a deficiency in collagen. So what that means for people with ehlers-danlos is that their ligaments, their tendons, pretty much anything that's made of connective tissue, it's a connective tissue-based disorder and disease. Anything that's made of connective tissue is going to be a lot more lax. So that is everything that the human body is made of. Skin, skin, muscles, tendons, ligaments, fascia, organ tissue, your eyes technically, so vascular. Anything with veins, arteries, capillaries, pretty much like anything and everything that is made of connective tissue in the body that's impacted by collagen. It is a fun little condition. I know that a lot of people would disagree with me when I say that. I've got a few fun party tricks that I do out of the hat because of the condition. Not great for me. I shouldn't be doing that. But it does give us some interesting tricks.
Yep.
Now, with that, there are multiple different subtypes. So for me, I arguably have a very mild level and degree of ehlers-danlos. For some, it's extreme. They're dislocating left, right, and center. They can't get through the day without a dislocation or tearing something. And you usually see people in mobility aids and wheelchairs and walking frames and sticks and things like
braces and stuff like that. Yeah.
I have my small collection of braces. That only come out when I absolutely need them. But I fortunately have hypermobile ehlers-danlos, which is hEDS. It is the only subtype that they do not have a genetic testing process for. there's no genetic marker.
Nice, well done.
I know, pat myself on the
Yeah,
shoulder.
that's
It's
awesome.
great.
Not
Can't
too
detect
hard.
it. Yeah, I might dislocate my shoulder off the chair. Yes, no, they actually can't detect it in a genetic test.
Okay.
And that is what we're currently investigating.
All right. And can we go into a little bit about some of the dangers, not only people with ehlers-danlos, but people with just genetic hypermobility,
Yes.
some of the dangers they face within a gym space?
Absolutely. So the dangers that someone with hypermobility faces in the gym space is essentially because their bodies are going to be being able to move past a normal range of motion. So anyone with hypermobility, their joints will extend past what's considered normal. So we often see it in things like knees, elbows. I have seen it in necks,
Shoulders.
shoulders. What else is there? There's backs. So the SI joint can sometimes be a bit funky.
Shocker.
Wrists. Pretty much anywhere where there's a joint can be impacted. So the dangers are, if you've got extreme hypermobility, dislocations.
Yeah.
I myself.
Subluxes. Yeah.
Yep. Subluxes. I myself have had a few
Yes.
run-ins with those. But dislocations, well, technically, yes, muscular tears and ligament tears, tendons.
Yep.
They're going to be more prone to things like tennis elbow, golfer's elbow,
Rotator cuff issues.
rotator cuff issues, repetitive strain injury, bursitis, pretty much everything.
That's a whole can of worms.
Yeah, it's a whole can of worms.
Yep.
But the good news is that it's not guaranteed. So it's
Sure.
not always going to be guaranteed that someone's going to be able to injure themselves in that way. Generally, we see it if they're, one, not doing things that, one, their coach has told them to do. And two, if they're being silly in the gym. So ego lifting, not moving with correct form.
It's a big blow to the ego, having to maybe lower the weight and maybe up the rep and warm up properly. God, that sucks, doesn't it?
How is your programming to your clients and the programming that you receive from your coach evolved since your diagnosis?
Yes. So the programming that I've received has definitely opened my eyes to the different styles of training. I'm actually training with my coach in a way that I haven't previously trained before. And so far, I found that it's been quite successful in managing like not only previous dislocations and also current risks. It's also allowed me to progress in the gym in a way that I actually haven't probably in over a year and a half.
Wow,
yeah,
that's awesome.
I had a bit of a string of injuries and I couldn't quite get a handle on it. Now, I found that I'm actually able to progress and my numbers are just going up week after week, which is fantastic.
That's great.
In terms of programming and how that's progressed for my clients, I am very fortunate enough to work with a lot of hypermobile clients, which is why we're obviously talking about this. But I have found that I have combined a bit of a hybrid of the coaching that my coach uses because it works, but also not so much programming. Well, yes, programming. We program in a different way to typical hypertrophy. So hypertrophy, obviously we push relatively close to failure. We're constantly putting a lot of stress and load on the body. Sometimes form breaks down and then we end up like actually doing
compromised.
A little bit compromised. For someone with hypermobility, that's going to be quite dangerous because when form breaks down, our limbs and our joints are great into getting into that technical end range and then it slips straight out of it further.
Yeah.
So super okay when you get to that point, but if you're not able to control it through form breakdown or just general fatigue, joints will generally pop straight out.
In a bit of danger.
Yeah. A little bit.
Yeah.
So it's probably pretty safe to say someone without any hypermobility issues can train to an RPE of, say, 9, 9.5, or even a 10 failure, whereas someone with hypermobility, it's probably safer to train at a few more reps in the tank, maybe an RPE of 7, 8.
Yes. Yeah. So I personally train to about an RPE 7, an RPE 8, and I'm very communicative with my coach on that just because often we do, as coaches, obviously we want to push our clients. So it's very easy to kind of go, no, you can push the intensity, you can push the weight, it's fine. But when it comes to hypermobility, and my coach knows that I pretty much, if I don't think I can do it, I'll just say no. But we have to listen to our bodies. So it's very easy to go, okay,
Amen.
7, 8. Yeah, it's also very hard sometimes to listen to the body when your ego is screaming at you. But yeah, 7 or 8 is the general range that I would suggest. So having 3 to sometimes 2, maybe 4. Then there's the whole side of things of hormones and your cycle. So as women, our hormones do influence our level of hypermobility. So the week before the period, we're going to be more hypermobile, more susceptible to injury and all kinds of other funky stuff. Loving a woman. Generally, right before the period, more hypermobile, more susceptible to injury. So we want to be more aware of how our body is moving, the intensity in which we're training, and the exercises that we're choosing. Like, I personally wouldn't give a client who has hypermobility in their hips something like a Bulgarian split squat if they're complaining of their femurs moving funny out of their hip sockets and they're right before their period and they've got they're struggling to engage their glute medius. Because that's just a recipe for all kinds of fun stuff in the hips.
Yeah. We wanted also, another important point would be to talk about the difference between flexibility and hypermobility. So if you could break that down for us as well.
Absolutely. So flexibility is generally defined by extended range in the muscle. So the muscle can move relatively well and lengthen relatively easily. So generally we see flexibility in kids because they're super bendy. We see it in dancers because they can do things like splits, they can do back bends, all kinds of like fun stuff. Now, hypermobility is defined by extended range of motion in joints, in ligaments and tendons. So pretty much anything with connective tissue. And then ehlers-danlos is on the next level with things like skin, organs, all that jazz. So all in all, flexibility is like being able to extend the muscle and stretch the muscle beyond a normal range. And hypermobility is the joints, the tendons, and the ligaments being able to move beyond the normal range of motion. So one affects muscles, one affects your range of motion and your control over the joint.
And people with hypermobility, I guess, once you've seen it or if you have it, are quite easy to identify.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you're testing for, I get it in my clinic all the time, where you're testing for certain things, and maybe you'll notice differences in people's posture, obviously, if they've got their scapula's sitting a bit funny, things like that. Yes, the wing scapula is a classic. But yeah, definitely can be an easily identifiable thing, but also not the end of the world if it is identified. As well. That's another thing that's really important to stress to your clients. If you notice
100%.
maybe scoliosis or something like that, it's not a game changer. It can be.
Yes.
But
at the end of the day, there's always going to be positive sides of things like hypermobility. I think when it comes to identifying hypermobility versus flexibility, you can be hypermobile and not flexible. So that's me. Yeah. I'm hypermobile, my skin's stretchy, my body's all bendy, it dislocates, but I can't touch my toes. I can't do the splits. Never have been able to, not even as a kid. So you can, but that's usually identified by like other areas that are compensating. So if you're hypermobile and you're not flexible, chances are it's because there are other muscles that are compensating and they're grabbing on and becoming really tight. So you actually can't be flexible because your body is trying to hold itself upright in a position that feels safe and comfortable. Yeah,
and that puts you in a really precarious position as well because your joint is taking so much of that range, whereas your muscle wouldn't be.
Yes.
Whereas if you're hypermobile, you almost want to have, well, it sounds like I'm targeting you right now, but this is just good for general information for people, is that with flexibility and range of motion and stuff, there's, I guess, let's call it a global guide as to different, like your wrists, your shoulders and things like that. There's different ranges that are set out by, Mr. Flexibility, John Flexibility, whoever came up with the rules. But yeah, obviously puts people in that different position where your joint's doing most of that movement when it has no support and things like that as well.
Muscles aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
Yes. And
absolutely.
So just a quick note, my advice is that if someone thinks that they have hypermobility, it is actually more common than a lot of people think. a lot of people walk around not realizing that they're hypermobile. The amount of clients that I've actually gone through the Bateman scale and gone, yeah, you should probably go to a physio. Is actually insane. Like, a lot of my clients are hypermobile. I actually recently helped one finally get some answers for unexplained pain that she's had for like decades.
It's great.
It is, and I'm so stoked that I could be a part of that for her. But my advice is, if you think that you have hypermobility, go to a physio.
If you have to ask the question.
Yeah, if you have to ask the question, go to a physio. I will always screen it with my clients to make sure that I'm able to adequately program. But a physio is generally going to be the best point of call. And if it's anything regarding the thoracic ring area, so around where the ribs and the spine is, there is a fantastic physio down in Malvern who works specifically on that area.
Cool.
Yeah. And weight training, resistance training is one of the best things that you can do.
100%. If you have hypermobility, do not stop weight training. It is the thing that is holding your joints together.
And good nutrition.
Good nutrition, good program, good strength training, and a coach who knows their shit.
As coaches sitting here, we know how important the scales are to assessing one's progress, but they're not everything as well. What happens if you only use the scales as the only measure of progress for a client?
My clients, I do feel like they must think I'm a bit of a broken record, because I do strongly encourage using the scale as a way to track progress.
Yep.
I do also preach that it's not the only way, as you said. It can very quickly ruin your mental health if you attach that much value to it, and it's the only source that you're using for progress tracking.
Yeah, it's something that I'm going through with one of my clients at the moment, where he's come and he's noticed such a massive improvement in strength, and I've noticed muscle bulk coming on, and things like that. Now, he's not on a planned out meal plan yet or anything like that, and he keeps going, the scale weight, my body measurements, they're not changing, they're going up, they're going down, they're, going diagonally, whatever it is.
All over the place.
Circles
on scale.
And it's a really tough little hurdle for people to get over. Like, it's something I've struggled with. I'm sure you have. I'm sure Sam has.
Yep.
Where you're just constantly paying attention to the numbers, and too many variables.
It can be very, very disheartening to people. And I think I am currently coaching a few people through it, because when we do attach that kind of value, we can focus on, when we're at that point, we can often focus on the other areas of progress. So how clothes feeling, how the strength is tracking, how we feel in our skin. But if we're that attached to the scale, we can actually end up ignoring all of those other really big wins.
Yeah.
And it almost puts a bit of like a sour down on all of those things. So we're not able to focus on the wins. We just focus on, great, the number's up today. Fantastic. Why?
I quit.
Like, I'm ready to quit because of this. And it happens all the time. I myself have dealt with it. I know you guys probably have too. It's detrimental if we're only attaching the value to the scale.
Yeah. I had it today, actually, believe it or not. So before my client's session, I logged on to their profile and saw that they had a little weight spike up. They're currently in a cutting phase. And it wasn't anything drastic, but I know this individual client has a lot of events on at the moment. It's December, it's summer, all the rest of it, lots of Christmas shows. And what I did prior, I actually put some before and after photos from when they started with me to current. And, the first thing I said, how's the body feeling? She's like, oh, well, good, but, the weight went up. And I said, okay, have a look at these.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I swiped through the photos.
Love that.
And they went, oh my God, that's amazing.
Game changer.
Like, it may have gone up just slightly, but there are so many influencing factors that can cause that.
Exactly.
Silly season is going to be a big contributor, and I think a lot of people are going to see their scale just do this all over the place, like up and down, all over the place. And that's because carbs. Technically, I'm just full carbs, full stop. They're not the enemy, but they're great. But they will influence that. Technically, food waste. So our poop will play a big part in that.
Yep. Sodium.
Whether or not sodium, whether or not we had enough water the day before, hormones.
Late night, alcohol.
Yeah, not enough sleep. Like, there are so many other things that can influence that.
Yeah.
And I think I like to say to my clients, and again, I probably sound like a broken record, it tells you one snapshot in time. It tells you very little about what actually happens in the body.
Yeah. So aside from scale weight, what are some other measurements you can use to track one's progress?
Yeah, so for visible progress tracking, I would suggest progress photos. I tend to not use, and I'm going to be a little controversial on this one, I tend to not use girth measurements and things like that, just because for someone who is on a journey to lose a lot of weight, the week to week, potentially month to month, is not going to be overly easy, quick progress that's going to be immensely like encouraging, because they're just not going to see a big change in numbers very, very quickly. But, and then that goes same as when you're on the opposite end and you're trying to tighten things up, it takes a while to move. So I use progress photos and scale weight combined. And then
great. You're on the good side of controversy, I think.
Yeah,
we've spoken about this before, actually.
Yeah.
Great. No, it's awesome.
And then for the non-physical side of progress tracking, so things like how we're feeling in our skin, confidence-based, mindset-based things,
Yes.
I will focus on. If my clients need it, I'll give them mindset tasks, where if they really are struggling, I will get them to sit down with themselves and go, okay, what are some actual wins that we've achieved here?
Yep.
Like, am I stronger?
Tick some boxes.
Yeah, tick some boxes. Am I stronger? Have I actually gotten any gym wins this week? Because I can almost guarantee yes.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a win if we search for it. It's like if you look for the negative, you'll always see the negative. If you look for the positive, you'll always see the positive. So looking for the wins like strength. Did you hit a PB? Did things feel easier? Was it easier to get up in the morning? How did we feel after going out for a social event? Were we able to eat the food without feeling stressed? Like all of these little psychological wins that kind of tie into it. Because if we only look at the physical, where is the growth?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One that you mentioned before was how your clothes are fitting, and I think that's such an underrated.
Thank you for covering
Oh
that.
yeah, I forgot that one.
I
Yeah.
was-
I meant to say it.
I was going to
like, oh.
cycle back to that.
Yeah. I think that's such an underrated measure, because the same thing with this individual client that I had today. They were like, oh, I actually went down a dress size when I went shopping over the weekend.
Fuck
I was
yeah.
like,
That's awesome.
you know, and it just makes you so proud as a coach to hear that, and the smile and the confidence is just beaming out of them.
Big time.
Because I feel like, especially for a lot of women, we unfortunately do attach a lot of value to the size on our clothes. Like that number will plague a lot of us.
Yeah. Something I've
we.
really noticed since having a partner.
Yeah.
Just how, and like not just my partner or whatever, but her friends and all that type of stuff is
Women
the
are.
number of you.
Yeah. We are inherently taught.
It's not your fault. Yeah.
No, we're taught from a very young age that we should fit into the smallest clothing possible. When we do that, we get this idea that the clothes we should fit the clothes. The clothes should fit us, not
It's
the other
so
way
stupid. Like
around. Yeah,
you
I know.
can have females who have a smaller upper body and they're a wider waist or maybe bigger glutes, and it's like, but I'm this size, but you know what I mean?
I think
it's a tough one.
Yeah, I think the biggest win is when we see clients really appreciate that their clothes are fitting differently. Because it's a little piece of data that we can look at and go, okay, cool, things are moving and they're moving in the right trend, and we're able to also then work on the mindset around the clothes, because number, it's just a number. Like I personally, I fit a medium shorts and a large sports bra, but that's because I have lats. Like I have back. Like
it's because I'm flying around the place.
Wings everywhere. But I remember when I first started coaching with you, Sam, I was so fixated on fitting into like a medium or a small sports bra. Physically, that was never going to be a thing. I'm 5'9", I'm tall. Yeah. So I'm never going to fit a small sports bra. But I remember being obsessed with still fitting tiny clothes, even though I needed to gain the weight and I needed to be healthy and I needed to be comfortable. And I do remember there is something that you said to me that deeply resonated. It still sticks in my brain. If you are not comfortable at a heavier weight, you will never be comfortable at a lighter weight. And that has remained in my brain to this day. I say it to my clients all the time. And it often leads to, I know, crazy.
Click that.
It will often lead to conversations around body image and really important topics that I think a lot of women, we don't touch on. And sometimes conversations like that are avoided by some coaches because it is leaning into the uncomfortable.
I'll give you another quote. To normalize it is to talk about it.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
That's another one.
Yep,
Yeah.
you can
So
clip that.
opening
Yeah.
the book for your clients to talk about how they're feeling and giving them those great tips about how do you feel in your clothes. I used to buy clothes that were too small for me. I'm like, it's all right, I'm on a cut. I'm going to fit into these.
we've got to be guilty of that. Yep.
And then I never did, and I was like, nah, throw it.
Yeah. Isn't it funny? Like I started my journey, I was wearing extra smalls, like clothes. Like I was really, really small, skin and bones. And all I wanted to do is fit into a medium shirt.
Ah,
And now I fit into a large.
hell yeah.
And like,
Oh, you're busting out of that thing, dude.
extra large
That thing
next.
is struggling.
But isn't it strange how it's like almost the opposite? Not for everyone, but you know how we all have our own struggles.
Yeah, well, everyone wears clothes, hopefully, so you want to be able to fit into them, hey? Yeah, no matter which way you're going, bulking or cutting.
Clip that.
So how frequently do you think, or not how frequently do you think, but for yourself with your clients, obviously dependent, but how frequently do you get them sort of weighing themselves, progress photos and different ways to measure?
Yeah, so for the clients that get a little anxious around the scale, I do tailor it to the individual because there are certain levels of anxiety that we can obviously push past and it's not harmful. And then there's certain levels of anxiety that we can't push past and that can be actually detrimental to them. But for a client who doesn't have a super high level of anxiety around the scale, because most women, realistically, we do. Most of us, we step on the scale and we immediately go, oh my God, that's my weight.
Yeah.
I encourage relatively frequent scale trends. So I encourage generally, sometimes, depending on the person, daily, because then we can really track the trend and see how
Teaches them.
Yeah, and it teaches them like what carbs will do to their body and what certain nutrients will do and how like extra volume and fiber will impact it, as well as what hormones throughout the month will do to it. So we can really get a predictable trend there. But for the clients who are a little bit more nervous about it, generally we start with every 2-ish days. That gives us enough across the week to know that if we're in a trend, it's going to show up. And then it will show up week after week and we'll be able to track the progress predictably.
Yeah, and the only, like, it's such a psychological thing, and unfortunately a lot of the time exposure therapy seems to be the way to get people across that stuff. I used to freaking hate the scales. I used to hate it as well. But yeah, just getting on it and understanding differences, sleep and all the stuff that we've spoken about before.
I will make a quick note where you actually can heal your relationship to the scale by weighing yourself more. So it's not so much like, I don't treat it like exposure therapy with my clients. I treat it as the more they do it, the more data they can actually receive from it, and then therefore they're able to actually understand it and educate themselves, and it's no longer this scary number that they have to expose themselves to.
Yeah.
So I think the exposure therapy thing works. But with the women that I work with, I generally treat it as more of like a
different levels of exposure therapy.
Because exposure therapy can be really shocking to a lot
Yeah.
of people.
Yeah.
And what would be some non-negotiables to achieving sustainable fat loss?
Yes. So just some quick non-negotiables that I generally encourage is, first thing I'll start off by saying is you can't complain about the results that you didn't get if you didn't do the work. So the work is the non-negotiables. The non-negotiables are you getting your steps in? If you aren't moving enough, it's going to be harder to lose fat. Next is, are you tracking your food? Tracking is going to be a massive tool that you can use, and you guys know this, to make sure that your numbers and your calories in versus calories out are as accurate and as informed as they can be. If we're guesstimating, as coaches, we're flying blind. Like, we can't accurately coach you to lose fat if you aren't willing to do the work, and that includes tracking. And it's not as restrictive as a lot of people think. A lot of people will go into tracking and they'll be like, this is incredibly restrictive. I can't do this. It's bad. I'm going to end up with a terrible relationship. It's only restrictive if you walk into it with that mindset. I think inherently tracking has improved my relationship to food. There are two ways you can do it. You can track restrictively and stop yourself from eating all the foods because MyFitnessPal told you to, quotation marks. But you can also track in a sense where MyFitnessPal isn't actually telling you what you can and can't eat. It's just giving you a number to kind of gravitate towards. And
You're telling MFP what you're eating.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Be its boss.
Yeah, that's it.
So it's up to you what you choose to fit into your calories. So making sure that you're tracking. You can stick to meal plans, but I find that they can, like they're helpful in the short term, but you have to do that education surrounding tracking and nutrition outside of meal plans, because otherwise you can become reliant on them. And what happens when we do that? Everything falls apart. Tracking, steps, training consistently. If you aren't training consistently, one will sacrifice muscle, which means that at the end result is not going to look how you want it to look.
Yep.
A lot of people think that the only way to lose fat is by cardio and cutting calories. Nope, that's your perfect recipe for something that the diet industry and fitness industry loves to call skinny fat.
Yeah.
I don't like that term. But you'll lose muscle and you're not going to be toned the way that you ideally want to be toned. As obviously you guys know, being coaches. So tracking calories, steps, and training consistently, and then using cardio as a tool.
Yep.
Not compulsory basic. Lots of people smash the cardio. I think that there are benefits to using cardio, but I don't think it's 100% necessary for a lot of the case, unless someone is going through a very rapid and big phase of weight loss. I generally don't include cardio until the very end of
Steps
the
will do.
Yeah, steps will do.
Yep.
And we push those until they get borderline almost unmanageable.
Yeah.
And then we can pull them back and add a little bit of cardio for a quick boost in energy.
Cool.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
are my little tips.
I would add a couple more in there and say tracking your weight and your photos as non-negotiables as well,
I agree.
because that gives sleep.
Yep.
Ben's on it, because that's giving your coach more data to then make those adjustments accordingly moving forward.
I think a lot of people come to coaching and they want us to do the work, but I think that if you can be coachable and allow us and give us everything that we possibly can get in terms of data, it makes us better coaches, because we're able to guide you with all of the information that we actually need to make sure that you're able to do the results. And then it's down to you guys to actually do the work. But we can't guide you without that data. Otherwise, we are flying blind and making guesses. And guesses don't get us anywhere.
Yep. Well said.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast today, Caitlyn. And
for having me.
if for those that are watching the podcast resonate with you, do you have coaching spots available, and how can they get in contact with you?
Yes, I do. I have online coaching spots available at the moment to work with me. In terms of hybrid coaching, I do have coaching spots available with my head coach. So she does have availability open at the moment. If you are wanting to inquire, either send me a DM on Instagram, which is at caitlynedmunds.fit, or go to my website, which is caitlynedmundsfitness.com.au. And I would be happy to have a chat with you guys.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Amazing.
Smashed it.
Thanks for joining us on what was episode 15, guys. Don't forget to like and rate the show, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
You.
Peace.